Hey, what's up, everybody? It's been a while. If you're new, welcome. Um, I have no idea what the future will bring for my content, but I I have big plans. I'll just say I'm very ambitious. So if you want to stick around, we'll see. Will he triumph or will he fall? Right? So we'll see. And as is most likely the case, if you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for continuing to, just hang around and not just leave. Maybe you forgot that you were even subscribed to this channel. I don't know. I won't be offended if that's the case. I don't blame you. You know, most YouTubers upload either daily or, at least multiple times a week. And it's usually a predictable schedule, but even if it's not, it's like, it's never more than a week or two. And if there is some kind of prolonged hiatus, which is like more than a week basically, then it's usually, due to some, you know, unforeseen circumstance or due to some special life occasion or something. Um, you don't just usually like go, geez, however long it's been. It's not usually this long without hearing from them. So, yeah, in that regard, that's what separates me, and I'm not the only one who's like that, but I mean, like, as far as the aesthetic that I try to create on this channel of being like, you know, somewhat reliable, something that you can look to and depend on, um, something being that sporadic is definitely not in line with that. So, um, yeah. So for that, it's unfortunate. I wish that it wasn't the case. I'm not going to say I'm sorry because, I don't want to force myself to make content if my heart's not in it. So I just feel like if I were to make a video when the mood's not right, I just wouldn't feel good about it. It wouldn't sit right with me. And especially on a platform so public, it's like, yeah, I don't really care for the most part. I don't have a lot of pride or a lot of shame, as obvious by a lot of the videos that I've left up. Um, but still, like, if it's me having fun, or having some degree of passion into it, then I excuse it. But if it's forced, then it's not art as far as I'm concerned. My definition of art, at least to me, is something that I feel compelled to create. Like tonight, for example. But we'll get to that. This is all a very long intro. And by the way, we're not limited to 30 minutes anymore because I finally got a phone that's actually decent. I now have a Samsung A12. I used to have a Motorola X4, and I had a BLU phone, and I had all these cheap generic brands, and they finally got me. They finally converted me. So yeah, I'm still Android, but Samsung. It's a respectable brand. At least now, if I need a part for it, it's not going to be like a huge problem, like having a Motorola in 2021. Um, but yeah. Anyway, got the front-facing camera on because I don't know. It's just what I felt drawn to do. But yeah, welcome to the inaugural, the season premiere of Cold Night Chats. The tentative title. I had all summer to think about it, and I didn't think about it. So Yeah, naturally, I didn't come up with an alternative title. But here we are, roaming the streets of my neighborhood, the same one from years past, but not the same one as years future. At least I don't think so. And that is because after all this time, I am finally moving. And I am moving by myself. For the first time in my life, I will be living completely alone. Well, no, I may have a roommate, but it would be a stranger. I will not be living with family or friends or relatives or anything like that. So, but let's try to stick to a coherent story. You know what? I probably shouldn't be barefoot. It's only like 63 degrees out here. I usually only go barefoot when it's like 40. So there's still like things crawling around on the ground and stuff at 63, but just got all. Oh yeah. The date and the time and the temperature. Oh man, it's been so long. I forgot how this works. Welcome everybody to Cold Night Chats. The date is the night of October 30th, morning of October 31st, 2021. Around midnight. I think it was like 11:54 when I started, so it's right about midnight. And temperature is 63 degrees. It might have dropped to 62 by now, I'm not sure, but somewhere in that ballpark. And the location is Port St. Lucie, Florida. For now. So, yeah, that's the stats. All right, so I suppose you're on. If you're watching this video specifically, since this isn't one of my clickbait videos, or, well, not that anything's clickbait, but it's not one of my like riveting, oh, I gotta see what this is kind of videos to like pull people in. Like the Cold Night Chat series is basically, I imagine, viewed by a specific subdivision of my fan base, I'll say. So, so if you're listening to this, then you're probably, anxiously awaiting for me to regale you with my adventures, misadventures, and so forth, to get you caught up to speed from the last episode. And I usually have a tendency with these kind of canonical series to go back and revisit the last episode before recording the next one, to kind of pick up where I left off and get myself back in that mindset. That's what I did for, Tales from the Fifth Dimension, for the podcast, and for, a lot of my more, hello, greetings, and salutations, and like randomness, the audio show, and like stuff like that. But I actually didn't this time. I just impulsively pressed record. But yeah, so I actually don't remember when the last one was. I know I did one at the beginning of April, and that actually might have been the last one. I'm not sure. But I know there was a thing back then too where I would record a bunch of stuff and I would only publicly upload like maybe 20% of it. So it's very possible that I recorded more in the month of April and just didn't make any of them public for whatever reason. There may have been several reasons. But anyway, yeah, here we are now. It's the first cool front of the season, so that's always exciting. The change in the air brings about a change in mood, I find. And it's mostly positive. Oh yeah, I forgot I said this here. But yeah, it's mostly positive. I like the cool weather. It's actually kind of ironic, I think. When you talk about seasonal affective disorder, 99% of cases it's with people, winter being linked to depression, and people feel great in the summer, and then they sort of come down from that high like in the fall, and then in the winter they're just like, gloomy and miserable. And for me, it's the exact opposite. I feel like I do have seasonal effectiveness disorder, or some variant of that, because I am tremendously affected by the weather, way more than I ever gave myself credit for. When it's hot, I'm miserable. I'm not enjoying it. And when it's cold, I love it and I'm happy. No matter what the situation is, if it's cold, I'm automatically in a better mood. And I really can't explain that. I don't know why. I guess ever since I was a little kid, I've had this correlation in my mind with hot is like hell, and then cold is like space. you know? So, and I was told growing up that heaven was in space, or a place that's not, a place that's elsewhere in the cosmos than Earth. So maybe another planet, or maybe, a whole, like, area, or maybe even space itself. I don't know. I really don't. But all I was told is that it's not on Earth. So, at least not yet. Not to lie my way, But yeah, wait. Should I go this way? How far is it? I don't even remember. I'll start walking. Going directly away from the house, taking a huge chance. But, actually, you know what? Why don't I just sit down in the middle of the street? Because there's no traffic. If I see headlights, I'll get up and pretend I was walking the whole time. Yeah, let's do that. I just hope there's not too many bugs crawling around on the floor. Because while they are friends, they're still... I don't know. If I feel anything crawling, I'll get up, but I'll stay here for now. Or sit here, not lay here. Anyway, but yeah, so, can I switch cameras mid-video? No? No. Alright, anyway. Just look at the ground. But yeah, so I was gonna go for a bike ride tonight, which should be my inaugural bike ride, but my tires are pretty much flat, since I haven't used them in 6 months. And, headlights. Walk. I'm already barefoot, so it's weird enough. But yeah, so my tires are, pretty much, flat. And we have two... Oh. They just pulled into my driveway. That's our company. Oh, man, he definitely saw me. Yeah, that's Joshua. Whatever, it's too late now. I'll just sit back down. But yeah, so, what was I just saying? I was talking about seasonal affective disorder and cold. Oh, yeah, I was gonna go for a bike ride tonight. But yeah, we own 2 tire pump inflators, whatever, and they're both broken, apparently. One of them's just stuck at 0 and won't move no matter what. So, like, and it's not like, oh, well, did you check it that it was on right? Oh, yeah, no, I know how to do that. I've been doing this for years. So I know, I know exactly. You got to do the thing. You got to, and so I know it was on right. I was doing everything right, and it just wouldn't budge from 0. So that's not good, because then I don't know how much air I'm actually pumping in there. The other one is stuck at 30 before I even plug it in, before I do anything. It's just automatically at 30, and then it just goes up from there. So I have no idea where I'm actually starting from. So, yeah, I could do the old squishy feely test, but that, I don't know. I like to know what I'm getting. I'm paranoid about that stuff. And on my car, too. Like, I check the tire pressure way more often than most people, and they have to all be like the right amount, or else I get paranoid about like blowing a tire or getting a flat tire, or whatever. I don't want any issues with that. I've seen too much. So, and the same thing goes for my bike. But well, that's less of a death machine than a car, but it's still, you can be hospitalized from a bike crash. So, but anyway, um, yeah. So, 'tis the season. Welcome back. We're welcome. So let me preface this recap by commenting that it seems like in a lot of ways we've really come full circle, from the beginning to the end. The end is much like the beginning, but I feel like it's one of those like hero's journeys kind of thing, like the 8 parts, the bullet points or whatever, like the story structure, the story circle. That's pretty much what I went through this year. And now I return, having changed. And it's weird because I had some kind of understanding of what was going on all throughout it, but I also at the same time wasn't fully aware of exactly the full extent of the ramifications of what was going on. I'm not sure if I could word that in a way that makes sense, but I'm sure that you know what I mean. Like, it's not like I was oblivious, because I would comment on things, and I would like I'd have satire and things about what was going on, so I was aware of it, but also I couldn't connect the dots to the puzzle because I was too deep into it. You know what I mean? It's hard to see the forest through the trees, but I knew that I was in a forest. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't know where exactly to start at, but I guess April, because I've already documented in, I would say, sufficient detail from January to April. But I'm really going this whole year, and we still got 2 more months to go. Um, but yeah, I'm basically going since January. But I guess we'll skip ahead to April. So, first of all, I'm going to do something that I don't think I've ever done on this channel. In fact, I've actually made a conscious effort since the start of this to never mention and to actually block any things that may allude to it, which is reveal my age. So I remember there was a 2.5 hour video that I was really excited to upload, but I watched it back, and for like 5 seconds, my age was visible. Because I was screen recording something, and there was like a tab open or whatever, and for like 5 seconds you could see something where it says enter your age here, and I entered it, and I I skipped uploading the entire video just because of that. Because I was too impatient or incompetent or whatever to just clip that few seconds out or blur the numbers or whatever. So I'd said, you know what, I'm just not gonna upload it. So yeah, and the reason this is so stupid, but the reason that I have gone so far out of my way to make sure that none of my viewers knew how old I was all this time is because I was a minor. Ooh, yeah, I've been under 18. Pretty much everybody I can think of that doesn't know for sure what my age is seems to automatically assume that I'm like 25 or somewhere in my 20s. And I thought that was pretty cool because a lot of them are like 18 to 21, so I thought that was cool. And I was like, yeah, they think I'm older than them. That's great. and I was like really living that up. But I was like, you know what? I'll reveal it when I'm 18. I'll just say that I'm 18, and then from then on, I'll be an adult, and that'll be all that matters. I just don't want to say I'm 15 or say I had just turned 15 when I started the channel, so that was way too young. I couldn't let the world know that I was 15. I'd be laughed at. Nobody would take me seriously. Every video I'd make, they'd be like, "Oh, that's so cute," or "Oh, leave him alone. He's just a kid," whatever. And I never wanted anyone to think that about me. I wanted to present myself as an adult. I'm one of you, like it's, yeah, I mean, when I was 15, people thought I was 21, so, but yeah, so I'm going to reveal my age. I am 18 years old. My birthday is in April, and I think I alluded to that last year, that my birthday was in April, but obviously I didn't say how old I was. But yeah, so this April, I became an adult, 18 years old, so I believe this is my first Cold Night Chats episode as an adult. So, woohoo! But yeah, this is the voice of an adult you're listening to. Unlike pretty much all of my other videos, which was the voice of a child. Yeah, wrap your head around that one. But yeah, so I mean, it's really that black and white as far as the law is concerned. You just go overnight, you just go from being a child to an adult. And it's just like that. And obviously, psychologically, it's nothing like that at all. I didn't feel any different on my 18th birthday than I did the day before, So, but then all of a sudden it's like, hey, now you can, register to vote. Now you can buy a car in your name. And now you can, like do all this business stuff. And now you have taxes. And now you gotta like do this and that. And, like, yeah, you're on your own insurance. And, like just all these things are just like, whoa, okay, And I'm a big boy now. I'm a independent man. So, it was a very interesting time because I feel like I've already matured. I've always kind of acted older than I was because I always saw myself as older than I was. So I feel like I already like was matured. Like I had spent so much time thinking about the responsibilities that I would have once I became an adult that by that time, like, it was already routine for me. Even if I wasn't actually doing it, I had spent so much time thinking about it that it didn't overwhelm me, And I remember saying that in the past about other things, anything that would overwhelm me or lead to anxiety or something, I would just think about it. I would just play it out, all the scenarios over and over again in my mind until it wasn't overwhelming anymore, until it was just boring because I had thought about it so much because people are naturally wired to, those who are prone to anxiety tend to have it over things that they don't fully understand, because that's what we're afraid of at the core, is the unknown. So if you familiarize yourself with it mentally, then it's not, it's not a threat anymore. It's nothing to be afraid of. So that's kind of what I did, and I'm happy with my choice in that regard. I think I really spared myself a lot of unnecessary stress in the moment. But yeah, so all right, let's get to, wow, see, we're already at 24 minutes, so normally we'd be 3/4 of the way through already. All right, recap. Let's go one area at a time. Let's start off with work. Let's see. So in April, well, first of all, I was already working well more than 40 hours a week at that time. I was doing double shifts and, open to close and all that stuff. And getting overtime hours and everything. um, even though I was a minor. And that's illegal. I mean, they told me I'm not allowed to work overtime. I'm not allowed to work more than 40 hours a week if I'm under 18. But they did it anyway because I was their best worker and they didn't have nearly enough people. They were very short staffed, and, I was someone that they could rely on. And now, in retrospect, a lot, I mean, my job has impacted my mental health and mental state in such a profound way that, like I said, I was kind of aware of at the time, but I didn't really comprehend the full ramifications of. If I did, I would have left so long ago. And, you know, I kind of should have, especially knowing how things turned out now. But I was naive. And it was a job that I was very good at. And, I was the best one there. And that, that kind of went to my head in a little sense. I didn't want to leave because of that. I was like, well, I'm at home here. This is something I'm good at. This is something, that's good for me. But also that was very surface level, because also there was a lot of negativity. And the negativity, I'm not going to say it was a mostly negative experience, but I will say that the negative experiences impacted me more than the positive experiences. So make of that what you will. But there was a lot of negativity, and it seemed like just about every day something negative happened. And especially in those first few months, I was not really able to or willing to or whatever, but I didn't fit the mold. And I guess I never really settled into it, but I never fit the mold of what was expected of people there. And that's what made me different, and that's what made everybody either love me or hate me. And 90% of people loved me based on their interactions with me. But unfortunately, the 10% that didn't were the ones that I was stuck with. My coworkers. So the managers and the higher-ups all love me. None of them have a problem with me whatsoever. Even to this day, all of them have come and gone. All the customers. I've had very few negative interactions with customers, and they were all like in the first few weeks that I worked there, and I was still kind of overcoming my antisocial tendencies. But once I kind of like figured out, once I got into the groove socially, then it's been nothing but positive. Um, but yeah, so the environment there and a lot of my sort of OCD kind of things, and the people that I was working with, not I don't know, I was kind of a perfectionist too, where like when something would get positive results, that would be all I would seek then. Oh, the customers like when I do this. I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that this can always happen. And then a lot of times I would overstep my boundaries and demand things of other people, of my coworkers, to try to impress the customers or whatever, maintain this image of me, that I held so precious and all that. And my coworkers didn't like that at all, and they made it known that they didn't like that, and that led to a lot of negative interactions. And because I'm just gonna say, I mean, it's fast food. I've been working in fast food, and the people that work fast food, I mean, they're mostly teenagers, and they don't care. They're there just to get their paycheck and do the bare minimum that they can, and leave. Most of them don't even have cars. They get rides there from their parents or from whoever, and they don't even want to be there. It's just their parents made them get a job so they can pull their weight or whatever, and they take their money anyway, so they don't even get anything out of it. So they have no sense of, personal investment in it, and so the ones that do keep their money, they don't care. They don't do anything. Whenever I ask them, oh, what do you do on your days off? Nothing really. They just have no lives, you know? But so not only are they boring people, but yeah, they just don't care. And they have no sense of accountability to the company or to the customers or to the products or the practices or anything. They just and I didn't realize, I was naive. Like I said, I didn't know that level of detachment was so common and pretty much expected of people in that industry. I thought that it was just the people that I was working with that were particularly bad apples and that I needed to bring them in line, basically. And so it took me a while to figure out that I was actually the odd one out because I was taking it so seriously. And that's not how people do business. So it took me a long time until I was able to find an internal compromise and say, well, I don't want to, I don't want to just give up on my integrity to my character, I don't want to stop caring about the customers or the products or whatever, but I also need to be able to get along with these people that I'm forced to work with and coexist with, I have to, they don't have to like me, but I just can't have them hate me, basically, so it took me a while and I bounced back and forth in both directions until I eventually found something that worked on all ends. And the people that I worked with changed so much. The cast of characters changed so much in 9 months. To the point where literally not a single person that I socialized with when I started there was still there by August. I ended up just recently getting the phone number of someone who's admittedly been kind of a friend to me. Who was there well before I started working there and still works there and plans to for the foreseeable future. And that's it. He's the only one. He's the only one I can talk to reminisce and be like, hey, remember so-and-so? Remember the time this happened? Remember, whatever. Remember when we used to do this, or whatever. And, yeah, because I can't do that with anyone else because they weren't there. They're all new people that, that came along. So I'm like this immortal person as far as they're concerned. I was there since before they started. I already knew what was going on and how to do everything. So it's kind of funny how they all look to me, because it's just you'd have people that were working there for 3 days trying to teach someone who's been there 1 day, but the teacher doesn't know much more than the student in that case, because then when they ask, well, how does this work? I don't know. I haven't done that yet, and it's that's terrible. You should never ask a question and be told, I don't know, that's horrible, so, there was literally a point in around August when we pretty much just did a complete reset and I was the only one. I was the only one that was still there. I went on a 3-week vacation to Pennsylvania in August. And when I came back, I was the only one. Every single other person that was there, they had hired at some point while I was gone. So some point within the 3 weeks. So I was the only one there that had worked there longer than 3 weeks. And I had worked there for 7 months at that point. So that's quite the discrepancy. And then, of course, the people that were there 3 weeks feel the sense of entitlement, feel the sense of superiority over the people that have been there 2 days, so they're like at the top of the game. And then this guy walks in, me, and it's like, who are you? They thought it was my first day. And I was like, no, 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 no. No, I've been on vacation since before you started working here. But my journey, and so then I had to adjust, and each one of those people were completely different from each other. So I also had to adjust my, like, because I pride myself on my adaptability, being adaptive to whatever environment I'm in and whatever people I'm around, to be able to communicate with them as efficiently as possible and everything. Try to speak their language, and do all that. So, it took me a while to say, okay, when I'm with this one, I'll act like this, and then, with this one, I gotta talk like this, and, whatever. While all the meantime still, having the forefront of my character be the customers and the company and the products and all that stuff. That's what my heart was really in. But, I mean, my heart was really in the customers, I wanted the customers. I genuinely have developed, as as soggy as it may sound or as stupid as it may sound, I really genuinely care about the customers. I've developed a genuine love for these strangers, and most of them don't even care. I know, most of them take it for granted or are oblivious, whatever. But I really do care, and I recognize that they're real people with real lives and real things to do and places to be. It's not just a video game. It's not Diner Dash, It's not just like practice. Like, it's for real. So when you see 30-minute prep times, that's not okay, because those are real people's days that are actively being ruined, by waiting a half hour for chicken nuggets and fries, So yeah, I felt like I was the only one that made that connection, because nobody else, seemed to care that I was working with. But I will say that it's mostly a better crew now, and I will say that since we got rid of all the people that were there longer than me, those were the people that I was afraid of. Those are the people that I would back down to, and that I would, like, they weren't gonna hear it from me, basically. So now that I'm the oldest one there, I'm the longest running cast member there, you know, now I'm kind of like treated with a little bit more respect, I guess. And I'm not the dictator that I once was, because I saw that I wasn't going anywhere with that, and it was out of place. I'm not a manager, I'm not a supervisor, whatever, I'm just one of them. So I figured I gave up on trying to change people or really give much unsolicited advice. But, I just kind of lead by example and hope that it rubs off on people and say, like, wow, Joshua's enthusiasm and his hard work and, like, genuine passion and just, like, how he really gets into character, like, that's working out to his advantage, like, the customers really like that. The managers are always super nice to him and compliment him, and, if he ever needs anything, they got him, they got his back, like, he's like, you can't buy that, like, you get so much further than if you just do the bare minimum, then it's like, yeah, you'll still get your paycheck, but that's about it, you're not going to be hailed and revered and all that. So I just kind of try to lead by example and just kind of quietly show the benefits of doing a job well rather than just doing it, and it works with some of them and not so much with others, but at least I'm not treated with that hostility that I was in the early days that was really negatively impacting my mental health, because they all kind of know, like, don't mess with Joshua, basically. And not like in a like a bully kind of sense, not that they're afraid of me or anything. It's just that, like, they see, like, the way that the managers talk about me and to me and interact with me and stuff like that, and the customers, a lot of the regular customers and stuff like that, and just the way that I am, and looking at the schedule, and how many hours I have, and when, how often they call me in, and stuff like that, like, they see all that and they're like, wow, Joshua must really be something special, so they kind of can't ignore the things that I say or the advice that I do give or whatever, even if they're not a fan themselves, they just kind of got to be like, well, whatever. So at least that's something good that came out of it. But yeah, there's a lot of the pain, a lot of the scars, like, on my brain, that the job has caused me is irreversible. I mean, I can tell it's going to be with me all my life. I'll never fully be able to let it go. It's a business industry, fast food, that will just slowly just grate you away over time, no matter what. No matter, even if you're like me and you're the most upbeat, enthusiastic worker there is. And I mean, really, I got a certificate of appreciation, and I was the first one in 33 years, the district manager said, to get one, for the company, because of the amount of, first of all, the reviews were 2 stars when I started there. It was 1.6 stars. And now we're at 4.3 stars. And I can show you the correlation between 5-star reviews and the word Joshua. Like, really, I can feel there's tags, for different things like service, cleanliness, quality, taste, price, things like that kind of auto generate by Google. And it also generates tags that are, like, commonly used, words that are commonly used in reviews. And now there's literally a tag called Joshua. And I thought that was so heartwarming when I first saw that happened. I was like, I actually cried. I was like, wow, this is meaningful, And so there's a tag called Joshua at the reviews for the place I work. And every single one is positive. I don't think there's one negative review that mentions my name. And even if it is like a 2-star review, it'll just be like, this place sucks, but Joshua's great. And it's like, well, what can I do about that? They'd be like, yeah, I waited 35 minutes for my food. It was disgusting. They got my order wrong. I'm never coming back there again. But the cashier was good, And I was like, okay, well, because that's what I am most of the time. I'm front of house staff, which is basically fast food cashier. They put me there because I'm good at dealing with customers. So it's basically guest relations. I deal with everything customer interactions, expediting, giving people their food, and any of their demands that they may have, any special requests. I take their order, I process their payment, I translate when necessary. I help them understand the menu. I walk them through the process and everything. Like, so anything to do with customer interactions, I'm your guy. I'm the one. So the only times it's not me there, basically, is if it's my day off, if it's not during my shift,
or if I'm on break. But if I'm there, chances are that's where I am. But I do mix it up depending on the skill set of my coworkers. If I'm working with like all new people and stuff, they can learn the register quicker than they can learn, how to make the burgers, for example. So I'll have to step in and do that, and say, okay, well, for the next, 3 hours until so and so comes in, I'll make the burgers and we'll have you on register, because, not just anyone can just start making burgers, It's not how it works. Or, whatever it may be. Um, you know, but yeah, so but that all brings us to now. I have my 2 weeks notice in, and my last day is November 4th. So, 5 days away. Well, Joshua, why? Why would you put in your 2 weeks notice when you said everything's better now, and you're the star of the show and you're the king of the place and everybody loves you and all that, like you got it made? Why would you, how are you unhappy there? Well, there's a lot of reasons. The place is just poorly managed. It always has been. The guy who is the head honcho, I don't want to say his name. I mean, you know who you are, man, if you're listening. But I have respect for him. I feel sorry for him because he's such a stressed out individual. But he definitely tries his best, and he's a lot like me with his sort of whimsicality, but he also is more bitter because he's worked there for 33 years. And like I said, it's a job that grains on you over time. So, me, after 9 months, I'm not like it changed me. I'm not naive and innocent anymore like I was when I started there, So, after 33 years, I can only imagine how much he's been, beaten down and slapped around and just like really hardened, by the whole place. So, you know, um, so he has that sort of like spark in him, but I just feel like he was a lot like me when he started, which is basically what he told me. And then, he's just like, I'll end up like him if I stay there long enough, basically. But I have respect for him, but he's just so stressed out, and he's only one person, and he's like the only one that seems to care or like be competent or have the ability, for all this stuff. All the other managers there, they each have their own personalities and they each have their own like philosophies, but none of them seem to work. They don't, and they contradict each other and everything, and it's just depending on who the manager is, there can be different policies or different things. So I just didn't like, there's a lot of things I don't like about how it's run, and a lot of the dishonesty and the deception, and like how on the inspection days we like pretend that we've been following the corporate rules the whole time and everything, and and then just like how misinformed people are and how like ignorant they can be. Like even the managers and stuff like that, if they're in a hurry, they just like won't give you the time. Like they'll cut you off and say, yeah, well, and have this answer that's like, well, if you would have just let me finish, it would have changed your mind about everything. And then they're like mad at me for not telling them. And it's like, hey, I tried to talk to you and you just didn't have the time. You didn't care. You just cut me off and tried, so it's like, it's not that they don't like me, because they definitely do, but they're just not like, they're still overwhelmed by their job after all these years, So, and this, it's just, there's always something. It's one emergency after another. It's one never before seen circumstance after another, but it's the same thing. And I've only been there 9 months, and I can already recognize that. There's nothing new or mind blowing about any of this. It shouldn't catch everybody so far off guard. If it's your first day, I understand it'd be terrifying. But if you're a manager and you've been one for 5 years, you should have your act together. So I don't know, but yeah, that's one thing, and it's just kind of like stressful too, and especially when I'm trying to do my thing and I'm trying to, show the newbies around and stuff too, like to be told, well, today's actually the exception, like, oh, today the screens don't work, so now, we have to try to remember, when there's 18 orders in the system, we don't even have the screens to look at for reference, so we have to have the paper receipts all around and try to put them in order and scatter, but then it doesn't show the prep times and it doesn't show any of the modifications, so you have to ask each one, hey, any modifications to your burger, and try to get, and it, or like, oh, hey, the AC doesn't work today. Nice, great, well, you still got to wear your hat and your mask and your all black uniform and everything, so good luck, okay, cool, nice. And then, hey, do you think we could fix the AC? Yeah, I wish. Get back to work. Like, all right, well, how many places are like that? That's not a normal work environment. And just anything, like anything at all that goes wrong, when I would tell the managers, they would just laugh it off. They would just be like, yeah, well, what can you do? It's just another day. Like, they wouldn't be like, oh, okay, let me try to fix that, And even going back to the distant past now, about problems that I would have with my coworkers when I would say, hey, I feel like I can't get through to so and so, or I feel like they really don't like me and it's making me uncomfortable and impairing my ability to do my job. Can you please, like, either talk to them or figure out what's going on, or like try to do something? And there's this one manager in particular that I would go to all the time, because he's like the human resources or whatever. He's like the one who, like, tries to befriend everybody, so he's always the one who's like, all right, I gotta talk to you about this. And he would say that to me all the time. He'd be like, I gotta talk to you, all right? Yeah, I gotta talk to you about something, every day. So I would confide in him. I'd be like, hey, can you please tell this one, to do that, because otherwise, if we can't reach an agreement, then you're gonna have to either move them or move me to a different department or something else, because I don't want to work with them until this is resolved. And I said that, and he was like, oh wow, okay, well, I'll definitely talk with them later, and don't worry, when you come in tomorrow, it'll be. And so, then the next day, I'd be like, so did you talk to so and so? And they'd be like, yep, everything should be fine now. And then I go in and they hate me even more. Now it's worse than ever, because now I snitched on them, so now they really hate me. And so that's what happened. And there's one person in particular that happened with. And I came very close to just quitting right then, because I was like, and I went back to the manager and I said, are you sure you talked to them? Because it's even worse now. It's not. And she said, oh, no, it's they seem fine to me. So, like, you should be good now. And I was like, well, I I was at a loss for words, and it's like, what kind of, and then here I found out the conversation they had not only was it inaccurate, but it made it so much worse, because the things that the manager said, it just gave this impression that it was way worse than, yeah, it wasn't accurate at all. And then they hated me for things that I didn't even say or do or imply at all. But the managers, oh, well, they said, I was like, oh geez, well, and luckily that person just decided to stop showing up to work one day in June or July. And that was it. And they were never seen again. So I was like, okay, well, yeah, I don't need to worry about that anymore. There was another person there that I kind of had a hot and cold relationship with. That I would talk to sometimes outside of work. And yeah, it was a sort of a love-hate relationship. It was very hot and cold. Um, and yeah, I remember some days I would look forward to her being there and see, and then some days I would dread it. Depending on where we stood, on what was going on. But yeah, that added a completely unnecessary level of intensity to everything during that time period as well. And then she actually ended up getting fired for some incident that allegedly happened on my day off that everyone's been very tight-lipped about. So to this day, I still don't even know what happened. But that was in June, I think, also. So, and that was the end of that. We still talked a few times after that, but we weren't working together anymore. So, um, but yeah, so and then there was a few other people. There was one other guy that I kind of like started to come around toward the end. I started to you know, I started to see him as okay, and then he quit. I never liked him the whole time I was working there, and then finally, like the last few weeks, I was like, you know what, maybe he's all right, and then he quit. Um, there was another guy that was like my best friend. Basically, he was so cool. His name I will say. I feel kind of uncomfortable saying the names of people I talk about in a negative context, but for a positive context, so his name is Anthony. So I know his last name too, but I'm not going to say it on here for privacy reasons. But Anthony, I love you, buddy. Not that I'm not sure if he's cool with me saying that. I mean, he's not gay or anything, and I'm not gay either. But you know what I mean, like in a no homo, like in a bro sense. That he was cool. He actually sort of egged me on in my persona. He actually helped me to develop a lot of the sort of rituals that I would maintain to this day at work there with the customers and with procedures and all that. He would like bring it up as a joke or as a dare or something, and then I would do it, and then I would like the reaction that I got from it or the way it made me feel or whatever. So I would just keep doing it even when he wasn't there. And yeah, we would have these sort of like friendly competitions, uh, over just stupid stuff, like I'd be like, oh, I'm the barbecue bartender, and he'd be like, yeah, well, I'm the ketchup king, whenever, like when talking to the customers, so it would just be this stupid stuff, but it was like high energy. But he was like also just such a chill person, and he didn't have any enemies. Everyone liked him, and so like him hanging out with me kind of got me like social points, because it's like, oh, well, if Anthony approves of him, he can't be that bad. Like when I was new and stuff, Anthony kind of like took me under his wing and all that. Even when the people there didn't like me or thought I was annoying or whatever, they liked Anthony and Anthony liked me, so it was like, that helped. But he actually was the first one to leave back in April. He got a better job at a fancy upscale restaurant, and initially I wanted to go with him. I was like, oh, can you get me a job there? And he was like, you can try. And that didn't go well. I showed up for the interview, and the guy who was supposed to interview me wasn't even there. And I called him and I was like, hey, where are you? It's Wednesday at noon, when you said the interview was going to be. And he was like, oh yeah, I decided not to go because, we're pretty well staffed right now. We're not really looking for people. And I was like, wait, see, like, why didn't you tell me that yesterday? I just texted you yesterday to confirm today at noon, and you're like, sounds good. Like, that would have been helpful to know before I went through all the trouble to get here. So I went through a lot of trouble that day. But I made it on time. And yeah. And so I called Anthony later and I was like, "Hey man, your boss just like blew me off and said that you're not hiring." And he was like, "Well, that's bogus. You totally are hiring. We really need people right now." And I was like, "Well, why would he say that to me?" And he said, "I don't know. Maybe he doesn't like you." I was like, "How could he not like me? I barely said 2 words to the guy. This was my interview. Like, I understand if he doesn't want to hire me, but at least give me an interview. Like, he doesn't want to interview me. I never had a formal interaction with him. You know, I met him for 2 minutes at a thing that I went to, and he gave me his phone number, and he's like, "Yeah, come in for an interview," and that was it. And that was the only interaction I had with him. So it's like, why would he say that if he never had an intention of even meeting me, you know? So I was also disgusted by that, and I was like, all right, you know what? Screw this, you know, because I still have that rebellious streak in me, you know, that's like, yeah, I don't need to be treated like that. So, you know, fine, I don't want to work there anyway, you know? And so, yeah, it took me a while to like, because I didn't want to look for another job, you know. If I was happy, you know, I was, I had a lot of rapport and a lot of investment and a lot of skill there, you know. I was so proficient at the intricacies of working there and all the minute things. I was so like ready for anything, you know. And but yeah, so I was hesitant to leave that because when I find something that works, I have a tendency to just stick with it. You know, when I find something that gets consistently positive reactions, I just want to do that, you know. But after almost 10 months of working there, I never got promoted. I never got a raise. You know, I'd get a pat on the back, you know, and a good job, sport, you know, whatever. But that doesn't mean anything on paper, you know. That doesn't do anything for me in the long term. So I kind of realized that I was being taken advantage of there, I guess, and how disposable fast food employees really are, where no matter how much they'll hype you up and talk a big game, like if they don't actually do something like promote you or give you a raise or whatever, then they don't actually, like, you don't actually mean anything there, you know. And it's easy to become conceited and delusional and think like, oh well, I'm the best, this place would fall apart without me. And then you go on vacation for a couple weeks and realize, oh, they were doing fine without me. Oh, okay, you know. And then it's like, yeah, I mean, you can leave anytime you want, you know, nobody's forcing you to stay here. And so eventually I worked up the courage to, you know, march right into the office and talk to the boss and make like an ultimatum basically and say like, hey, you know, can I be a supervisor? And he was like, you know, I'd recommend putting in your 2 weeks notice then. And yeah, because you know, I started off the conversation by just saying like, yeah, you know, I've been working here a long time, and you know, I have quite the rapport and quite the history of positive, um, you know, reviews and you know, positive things, and a lot of days like I held the whole thing together. And literally I would get called in on my day off and say the store can't open until you get here. And I'd be like, well, it's my day off. And like, yeah, I know. So if you can't come in today, then we just can't open today because you're the only one that we trust to run things. You're the only one who's worked here long enough or able to, you know, or whatever. So if you don't come in today, we can't open. And, you know, as soon as you can get here, then we can open. And like, that's a lot of power. That's a lot of trust. That's a lot of, you know, like most jobs aren't like that, you know? You come there and you do what you're there to do, and that's it, you know. But not this. It's like there was such a weight put on my shoulders because I was such a good employee and I was so reliable and my skill set is so diverse that they used that, they utilized that, And I didn't mind because I thought like, oh well, this is getting me closer to, that promotion or that raise or something, right? And, I kept hearing like, well, after 3 months, after 6 months, after 9 months, and then after it was 9.5 months, I was like, how long is this gonna take? And I talked to the boss, and he basically said, you know, my hands are tied. Um, I can't do anything for you. It's like, you know, very few of our employees end up making this a career. Most people don't work here longer than a month or two. It's like you've definitely served us well, and you've given us a lot of your valuable time and energy, and we appreciate that. I wish there was more I could do to show that, but unfortunately there's not really. So if you want to leave and if you have a better opportunity, I totally understand that. The door is always open if you want to come back. But, and I'm not giving you the full story here because the other side of the story is um, on an impulse one day in early September, I decided to, and this is where we transition from work to, I guess, work, but also to moving and the future. On a whim, I decided to apply for Universal Orlando Parks, and I never thought anything would become of it. It was just like, it was just spitballing, and I had no intention of leaving my job or moving or anything like that. But I was just like, just so I could say I did it. And they actually replied. It was like 2 weeks later when I had given up about it and even forgot that I applied. But I got an email saying that you've been invited to interview with us. Now, in the application, it said, due to the high volume of applicants, don't expect to hear back from us, basically. Like, we'll only be handpicking a select few that meet all the specifications we're looking for. So immediately I was very skeptical of it. I was like, oh, yeah, I'm probably not going to hear anything from them. And then when it was 2 weeks, I was like, yeah, definitely not. And then one day out of the blue, I just get this email. Congratulations, you've been selected to interview with us. And I was like, well, that still doesn't mean much. I mean, it means that they think I'm in the top 5 percentile or whatever, but I'm not hired. It's just an interview. So then I had to schedule the interview like 3 more weeks in advance. So I was just in anticipation that whole time. And it was a phone interview too. So I had to do the phone interview. And I remember I was actually in Pennsylvania at the time of the interview, because I went up again in October. And so that was October 6th was my interview. And they basically hired me on the spot. Over the phone call, they were like, it was like 10 minutes. They just went over, just confirmed all my answers to the multiple choice questions in the application. And then we're like, great, so when can you start? And I said, you know, I don't know. Like, when, and they're like, well, I mean, we're hiring immediately. So could you come in tomorrow? I said, well, I'm actually out of state right now. And when I get back, I still need to put in my 2 weeks notice where I'm working. So, it would be like 3 weeks. And they're like, oh, well, that's pushing it. But, I mean, we'll see if we can hold the spot for you. But, you got to get in here as soon as possible. And so, like, oh, so then they made me schedule my appointment to come in there to get my fingerprints and all that stuff, and register in their system and all that as a new employee. And I picked the farthest in advanced appointment that I could to try to drag it out, and that was October 25th. So I did that, and then now I start a virtual week-long training program that I'm going to be doing from home. And you have to schedule the appointment. It's like a class, basically, but it's like 4 hours. So you have to schedule the times for when you want. So I have to schedule that around my work hours so that because I'm still within the 2 weeks, so I'm still working, so that I make sure that I'm able to do that on the same days. So there's a lot going on, but but yeah, so I got hired by Universal. So my 5-day training thing is going to be November 1st to the 5th. So I could start as early as the 6th at my job there. And I'm going to need to live in Orlando when that day comes. And I have no idea where I'm going to live still. So I'm scrambling to look for places and all that. So that's, that's where I'm at. But I'm sure we'll get more into that in the next episode. Anyway, it's been an hour and 10 minutes, so I'll just say, oh yeah, I want to wrap up my story about work and all that. I went in when I got back from Pennsylvania after that interview, and so I had this more like this higher sense of confidence of like having nothing to lose. And I said like, hey, I got an offer from Universal. And then before I could say anything else, he said, so when are you leaving? And immediately that, takes the wind out of my sails. I was like, well, actually, I was hoping I wouldn't need to. I thought like, I'd talk to you and see if we could negotiate something. And he's like, I'm not in a position to do that. I totally understand. You want to go with that? He's like, honestly, there's a lot more opportunity for you there. And just living in Orlando and being there and working for that company is like, he said, I think that's the best thing for you to do. He's like, with your enthusiasm and with your philosophy and everything, he's like, I know you'll go far. And they're a company that has more in their power to be able to reward that than we do. He's like, so as much as I care about the company, I also care about each of my employees on an individual level. And I want you all to succeed. So, it's like, I'd go for it. And so obviously then it made it hard, for me to ask for anything there. So I ended up just putting in my 2 weeks notice right then and there. And that's how it was. So we kind of shook hands. I'm leaving on good terms, it's not like a screw you kind of thing. All the managers found out about it. Of course, I didn't tell them, but they found out because I go into the office and they look at the files and all that stuff. And, they're all just like, wow, I'm really going to miss you. I never thought I'd see the day. I'm just used to you being here all the time. I was like, it's going to be so weird not having you here, and everything. And like every single one of them was like, oh, I'm going to miss you so much, it's like they don't say that to everyone else who leaves, So it's like, I know that there's something special with me, but I'm enjoying my last few days. I'm really milking it. But yeah, so that's what's going on right now. But you didn't expect to hear a lot of that. Anyway, I have so much more to say about all I talked about is work, but there's so many other categories on there. I guess we're gonna have to make a part 2 of the preface, right? Part 2 of the recap next time, because it's been an hour and 13 minutes now, and I got other stuff to do tonight. But yeah, so there you have it. Cold Night Chats, October 30th, 31st. Thanks for listening. And thanks for listening all the way through. If you listen to 73 minutes of this, bravo. Yeah, that takes patience. But yeah, so until next time, take care. Good night.